John Locke. John Locke was an English philosopher from the 1600s who had big ideas about how people learn and what rights they have. He thought that when people are born, their minds are like a blank slate, or tabula rasa. This means we don't know anything when we're born, and we learn everything through our experiences. Locke also believed in natural rights, which are rights everyone has just because they are human. These include the right to life, liberty, and property. He argued that governments should protect these rights, and if they don't, people have the right to change the government. Locke's ideas were very important for the development of modern democracy and influenced the American and French revolutions. George Berkeley. George Berkeley was an Irish philosopher who lived in the 1700s. He had a very unique way of thinking about the world. Berkeley believed that everything we know about the world comes from our senses, what we see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. He argued that physical objects don't exist independently of our perception. This means that if no one is there to see or hear something, it doesn't exist. For example, if a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? Berkeley would say no. He believed that everything continues to exist because God is always perceiving everything. This idea is called idealism, which means that reality is based on our minds and perceptions. Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love. David Hume. David Hume was a Scottish philosopher from the 1700s who is famous for his ideas about human nature and knowledge. Hume believed that all our knowledge comes from our experiences. He was very skeptical, meaning he questioned everything and wanted proof for all claims. One of his big ideas was about cause and effect. He argued that just because one event follows another, it doesn't mean the first event caused the second. For example, if you see the sun rise every morning, you might think the rooster's crow causes the sun to rise, but that's not true. Hume also thought that our emotions, not just our reason, guide our decisions and actions. His ideas were very influential, especially in the fields of science and ethics. Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher from the 1700s who tried to understand how we know things and how we should act. Kant believed that our minds play an active role in shaping our experiences. He said that while we get information from the world through our senses, our minds organize this information using basic concepts like time and space. Kant also had important ideas about ethics. He proposed the categorical imperative, which is a rule that says we should act in ways that we would want everyone else to act, too. For example, if you think lying is wrong, you should never lie because you wouldn't want everyone to lie. Kant's ideas helped shape modern philosophy and our understanding of how we think and make moral decisions. Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel was a German philosopher who lived in the late 1700s and early 1800s. Hegel is known for his complex ideas about history, reality, and how we understand the world. One of his key ideas is the dialectic, which is a process where an idea, thesis, is challenged by an opposite idea, antithesis, and this conflict leads to a new idea, synthesis. He believed that this process drives historical and philosophical progress. Hegel also thought that reality and our understanding of it are constantly evolving. He argued that history is a rational process and that freedom and reason are the ultimate goals of human development. Though his ideas are difficult, Hegel influenced many later thinkers, including Karl Marx. Arthur Schopenhauer. Arthur Schopenhauer was a German philosopher from the 1800s who had a rather pessimistic view of life. He believed that the world is driven by a force he called the will, which is a kind of blind, irrational drive that causes all the pain and suffering in life. Schopenhauer thought that our desires and wants are never fully satisfied, leading to a cycle of suffering. However, he also believed that we can find some relief through art, philosophy, and compassion for others. Schopenhauer's ideas were quite different from those of his contemporaries, and he influenced later existentialist thinkers like Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche was a German philosopher from the late 1800s known for his bold and controversial ideas. He is famous for declaring that God is dead, meaning that traditional religious beliefs were no longer powerful in people's lives. Nietzsche believed that without these beliefs, people needed to create their own values and find their own meaning in life. He introduced the idea of the Übermensch or Superman, an individual who creates their own values and lives life fully. Nietzsche also talked about the will to power, which is a drive that he believed motivates all human behavior. His ideas challenged many traditional beliefs and influenced modern philosophy, psychology, and literature. Karl Marx. Karl Marx was a German philosopher and economist from the 1800s who is best known for his ideas about society, economics, and politics. Marx believed that history is driven by class struggles, where different classes of people fight for control of resources and power. He argued that the capitalist system, where businesses are privately owned, leads to the exploitation of workers. Marx believed that this system would eventually be replaced by socialism, where the workers would own and control the means of production. His ideas were revolutionary and led to the development of communism. Marx's work has had a huge impact on politics and economics around the world. John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill was a British philosopher from the 1800s who made significant contributions to ethics, political philosophy, and economics. One of his main ideas is called utilitarianism, which is the belief that the best action is the one that brings the most happiness to the greatest number of people. Mill believed that the right thing to do is whatever maximizes overall happiness and minimizes suffering. He also wrote about individual freedom, arguing that people should be free to do whatever they want, as long as they don't harm others. Mill's ideas help shape modern democratic societies and our understanding of human rights and liberty. Søren Kierkegaard. Søren Kierkegaard was a Danish philosopher from the 1800s who is often considered the father of existentialism. He focused on individual existence, choice, and the importance of personal responsibility. Kierkegaard believed that each person must find their own path in life and make choices based on their own beliefs and values. He thought that this process often involves anxiety and uncertainty, but it is essential for living a meaningful life. Kierkegaard also wrote about faith and the challenges of being a Christian in a modern world. His ideas influenced many later existentialist thinkers, including Jean-Paul Sartre and Martin Heidegger. Ludwig Wittgenstein. Ludwig Wittgenstein was an Austrian philosopher from the 1900s who made major contributions to the philosophy of language and mind. Wittgenstein believed that the problems of philosophy often arise because of misunderstandings about language. In his early work, he argued that language is a set of logical propositions that picture facts about the world. Later, he changed his view and suggested that language is more like a tool we use in various ways in different language games. He believed that meaning comes from how words are used in specific contexts. Wittgenstein's ideas have had a huge impact on the study of language, logic, and the nature of philosophical problems. Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell was a British philosopher and logician from the 1900s who made important contributions to many areas, including mathematics, logic, and social reform. Russell is known for his work in analytic philosophy, which emphasizes clarity and logical rigor. He believed that many philosophical problems could be solved by analyzing language and concepts more precisely. Russell also wrote about social and political issues, advocating for peace, education, and human rights. He was a strong critic of war and religion, believing that reason and science should guide our lives. Russell's work has had a lasting impact on philosophy and continues to influence thinkers today. Martin Heidegger. Martin Heidegger was a German philosopher from the 1900s who is best known for his work in existentialism and phenomenology. Heidegger's main focus was on the question of being, what it means to exist. In his most famous book, Being and Time, he explored how humans experienced the world and their own existence. He introduced the concept of Dasein, which means being there or presence, to describe human existence. Heidegger believed that people often live inauthentically, conforming to societal norms instead of living true to themselves. He emphasized the importance of facing our own mortality to live more authentically. Heidegger's ideas are complex, but they have deeply influenced existential and phenomenological philosophy. Jean-Paul Sartre. Jean-Paul Sartre was a French philosopher from the 1900s who is one of the most famous existentialists. Sartre believed that existence precedes essence, meaning that people first exist and then create their own purpose and identity through their actions. He argued that humans are radically free and responsible for their choices, which can be both empowering and anxiety-inducing. Sartre wrote about the concept of bad faith, where people deceive themselves to avoid confronting their freedom and responsibility. He believed that living authentically means accepting our freedom and making choices based on our true values. Sartre's ideas were influential in philosophy, literature, and popular culture. Simone de Beauvoir. Simone de Beauvoir was a French philosopher and writer from the 1900s who made significant contributions to existentialism and feminist philosophy. She is best known for her book, The Second Sex, where she analyzed the oppression of women and the concept of gender. De Beauvoir argued that women have historically been treated as the other, defined in relation to men rather than as individuals in their own right. She believed that women, like men, can create their own identities and should be free to live authentically. De Beauvoir's work has had a profound impact on feminist theory and the fight for gender equality.